Cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. There are times I wish I knew you like a friend. Maybe if I did, we'd come through in the end. All the opportunities, all the hopes for you and me, stories far from proof. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to safari every time. Seriously. Stop trying to stop trying to sometimes it ain't enough to make it through. All the names you shout at me, all the red I make you see. Sorry, but it's true. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. There are times I wish I knew you like a friend. Maybe if I did, we'd come through in the end. All the opportunities, all the hopes for you and me, stories far from proof. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye effortlessly. Stop trying to. Stop trying to. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to look for a fight with me. Yeah, you gotta know I love you. Yes, I do. And sometimes it ain't enough to make it through. All the names you shout at me, all the red I make you see. Sorry, but it's true. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. There are times I wish I knew you like a friend. Maybe if I did, we'd come through in the end. All the opportunities, all the hopes for you and me, stories far from proof. Stop trying.
Hi everyone, how's it going? Nice to see all of you again. This is dolltr or Claire with 343 Labs. We are here doing another 343 TV episode. Really excited to be here with all of you. Welcome to our stream today. If you've been tuning in to our previous streams, you'll know that Tips and Tricks is my show that I usually do about anything related to Ableton Live and some tips and tricks that I share. I'm Claire and I'm an instructor at 343 Labs, and I usually take a lot of the Ableton Live related classes or push related classes too. We did used to do a lot more of that when we were not in quarantine, because we were able to give let people use controllers and stuff. But no, still very active using Live, and that's a little bit about 343 Labs. If you're just joining us and if you are hearing about us for the first time, we are a school that's based in Manhattan. But of course, now we're operating largely online because of the entire pandemic. But we're still very happy and grateful to be able to share with the community and give things to all of you, like 343 TV. And 343 TV is our daily 1 p.m. Eastern Time programming, where we share about different things related to either topics or specific softwares. So in my case, for example, I'm doing Ableton Live. We also have a show that's dedicated to Logic. We have another show that's dedicated to hardware, and another show that's dedicated to techno, and then we have a theory show as well. So pretty much daily programming for you in this time, and we hope that you're learning something from it too. Hello to everyone in the chat. Greetings to Andrew and Satni. Hi, welcome. And also to Thomas from 343 Labs, who's running the behind the scenes stuff as always. But very happy to be back with all of you again. Ooh, I'm going to close that up and not reveal too much of what I'm going to do. But that said, usually I run things in live for these streams, although I do use other kinds of hardware and software as well. But for today, I thought I would kind of run along what I've been doing for previous streams, or the most recent previous ones, which have been dealing with audio effects. And today I wanted to specifically talk about audio effects as they relate to vocal processing. So I don't know if we have any vocalists watching. If you are a vocalist and if you are watching, leave us a comment in the YouTube chat over here, and I've got it pulled up so I can say hi and respond to that end. But yeah, let us know if you're a vocalist and if you have ever done vocal processing before, or maybe you're a producer who has produced other people's vocals. I've done both of those things. I produce for other people and I work with their vocals if they're a vocalist, or I also work on my own vocals if I am doing a thing on my own. So that's a little bit of what we're talking about today. So let us know in the chat if you're a vocalist or if you think you might want to see a certain thing about vocal processing. That's what I'm going to talk about today, different ways of processing vocals. And I thought while I'm waiting for everyone to maybe chime in the chat, feel free to also tell us a couple of things in addition. Oh, yay, vocalist. Hi, Lisa. Greetings. Nice to hear from you. Thanks so much for coming back. We have a couple of folks who have been to our other streams before, so it's nice to see all of you back. Hope you're all staying safe and well. But yay, great to hear that there's a vocalist. Also, feel free to let us know where you're tuning in from. As I said, we're in Manhattan as a school, but I'm personally based in Queens, so I'm streaming to you from Queens right now. But yeah, youtube.com/343labs. You can also subscribe to us if you enjoy our streams. Not our screams. Oh my goodness, our streams. If you enjoy our screaming, we could set that up probably for like another. Maybe we'll have my show next week. Maybe it's going to be like tips and tricks for screamo or something. We could do that too. I did do screamo once when I was playing with a friend's band of mine that does like screamo and punk rock. So that's totally valid too. But for today's vocal processing, I wanted to walk you through a little bit of the dolltr vocal processing that I use for my voice when I'm doing my dolltr project. And that's going to involve walking you through a couple of other things. Oh, hi, Nefertiti. Welcome back also. Oliver. Ooh, that is interesting. So, OVOX or vocal synth or other repitching effects. Let's talk about repitching today, Oliver. Vocal synth and OVOX are actually not related to repitching, but they're related to vocal synthesis, which is next week's topic. So, Oliver preempting us a little bit there. But today we're going to talk about more of the vocal processing stuff itself. Yeah, South Africa, that's awesome. One of my best friends was from South Africa back in college, so it's cool to hear about that. But yeah, so Oliver, if you tune in next week, we'll also talk about a little bit of vocal synthesis, but today we can definitely talk about repitching. So over here, I wanted to share with you a vocal that has my typical effects rack on it. I have a processing rack that I've developed for myself, getting to know my voice over the years. So this is what my vocals could sound like now. So I'm going to play for you maybe just a section of this. This is a segment of a track that I'm currently putting into another track of mine. It's from a production of mine I'm working on that's called Defeated, but this is a section of that vocal that I'm processing then. Caleb, hello! Hi, Caleb! From Western Australia. I think I know Caleb. And Scott, hi, greetings. Thank you so much for also spelling my name correctly. Sometimes people just don't spell the name correctly, but yay, cool. So here we are. I've got a simple chord progression going on in the background, which was the chord progression for my vocals as like a verse and a chorus sort of thing. And then I sped up the chord progression for building up towards the vocals. Let's also get a sense of the tempo. I'm going to turn on the metronome. We're at 125 BPM, so now that we're here, let's hear the vocal.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't wanna leave me. The seconds baited, the curses tossed, saying you don't wanna need me. Time would wait for anyone else. Night and day move on, and we're left to grieve. Beyond the reasons we paid the cost, here in the moment defeated.
So that's a song. Or that's a part of the song. That's in the build up to the drop. But that's how the vocal sounds like after I put this processing rack on it, which has, there's obviously still work to be done. And since this was just a demo vocal, I didn't record it properly yet. If you take a look behind me, I have this, I'm going to pull my mic with me. I have this setup behind me that is pretty much my vocal recording booth in my house. I don't have a proper home studio necessarily, but I do have resources for me to record at home if I need to. So that's what the vocal sounds like when it's processed. Let's turn off this vocal processing rack and hear it just dry. So to do that, anytime you want to do this in live, everyone, you just have to click on the device activator button that's going to be on the top left of any rack that you see. It's going to be this yellow button, or it could be a slightly different shade depending on what your skin of live is. But over here it's yellow. So here is everything before the processing.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't wanna leave me. The seconds baited, the curse is tossed.
You can hear interesting
saying
things.
you don't wanna need me. Time would wait for anyone else. Night and
There's,
day
like,
move
stuff going
on, and
on.
we're left to grieve beyond the reasons we paid the cost. Here in the moment, defeated.
So that's like the original vocal. And then with all of the effects on it, with the processing,
The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't wanna leave me.
and of course, I will also add that you'll hear space-related effects on this, like delay and reverb. That's something that I did specific to the song, so I don't usually always have the same delay and space on every single track that I do. And in this case, it's what I have over here. Oh yay! Hello to Andrew from Halifax, Canada. In a moment, I'm gonna have a call with some friends in Calgary, so I'll be talking to them. Hello, Alex. Alex, thank you so much for tuning in. Alex is an amazing producer friend of mine as well. Oliver, how about Nectar and or Melodyne? That's a great question. So usually I would not necessarily consider that re-pitching, but they would be more of like, how should I describe it? I would say more just pitch correction. Oftentimes when people use the term re-pitching, they're referring to something like this.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost. Pray you don't wanna leave me.
So Oliver, I do hope that answers your question. It's not going to be the focus for today, since today is about like what I mentioned it's about. But also hello to Nisa. I just noticed that you were saying hello from Singapore. Hi. Oh no, it must be like 1 a.m. in Singapore right now. I think my parents might be asleep, but my family's also in Singapore. So yeah, so if that's it though, Oliver, if you do want to sponsor me with a Nectar license, I would love to be able to do something on Nectar. I don't currently own Nectar, although I do know how to use it because I used to use it back in school. But yes, we don't currently have any sponsors for 343 TV, anyone. But if you are able to hook us up, let us know in the chat. We would love to be in touch. And I would love to own Nectar and do something for you. In the meantime, though, let's head back over here to the vocal. And I'm going to goodness. I'm going to take you through what I did step by step. So oftentimes for a lot of vocal processing, I really do think it's so specific to the voice. There's only so much I can tell you as a producer who's worked on vocals about a chain that I use, but the moment I have a different voice, so let's say if I ever had to mix something from the lovely Alex in the chat, who's an amazing vocalist also, my producer friend Alex, if I had to mix Alex's voice, it would be a very different chain. Subtle, maybe not super different, but I would have a different chain to react to her voice differently. And depending on where she recorded that vocal, if it was in her bathroom or if it was in her garage, or if it were in the open, that would totally be different too. And also depending on what mic she's using, it would be a different chain as well. So I'm going to walk you through this chain that I have in particular. How many devices do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. To be fair, that's pretty much what I usually have on a voice. Sometimes the delays and the reverbs won't be on the vocal, but they'll be through a send, and that's a different story altogether. But yeah, usually this is the chain that I have. The first thing that I often have in my chain is some kind of compressor, and I'm wondering if anyone has heard of the LA2A. If you've heard of the LA2A, let us know in the chat. Or if you're a fan of hardware devices, let us know in the chat also. If you're a fan of those. But the LA2A was is actually, I say was as if it doesn't exist anymore, but it's a hardware piece that acts as a compressor. It's really good for gain reduction. And there's an emulation of it that's called the CLA2A that's modeled after something Chris Lord-Alge did, I believe. If someone could corroborate that, that's good, but that's how I remember it. The CLA2A is an emulation of the LA2A, and you should be able to see this right now. I'm just going to make sure that it's showing up. Ah, great, cool. It is. Nice. So the CLA2A is, as you can see here, there's some kind of gain control, and then there's some kind of peak reduction. So I'm going to also turn off all of these other devices that I have so that we can listen to this one at a time. That might be a good thing to do. But what it's going to do is function like a compressor. It's a classic compressor. And what does a compressor do? We talk about compression almost as if it's a bit of a mystic kind of beast in a way. Like we'll always say, oh, compress that. Or do some, like, you should add some compression onto that kick drum, whatever that means. Yeah, Roller8, hi, welcome. Yes, the UA version is really nice too. I do like it as well. But for now, this is the Waves version, so the Waves CLA2A. And what it's doing is it's taking the softer parts of the music and making that louder. And it's also taking the louder parts and making that softer. And in the case of the LA2A, I remember distinctly becoming aware of it when I was in college as well, studying music and tech and whatever it is. And one of my teachers my professors mentioned, try putting an LA2A on your voice. And at that point, I didn't really understand what it was doing, but I put it on my voice and it sounded so good. So then I kind of investigated a little bit and was like, what exactly is it doing? Well, the LA2A, it's not just doing the actual compression, but it's also adding a little bit of color to the voice. It has a little bit of that analog warmth that, again, very elusive. You'll hear people talk about it all the time. But oftentimes, it'll also be spoken with in the same sentence as like things like saturation or things like analog warmth, whatever those terms mean to you. But it's giving a little bit of a timbre change to the sound. So that's oftentimes what I prioritize, other than thinking about specific terminology. You're changing the timbre and the quality of your sound. That's helpful, especially if you start with a sound that doesn't necessarily have the cleanest timbre. So here is the vocal before the LA2A with like nothing on it.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't wanna leave me. The seconds baited, the curses tossed, saying you don't wanna need me.
And it's like, gee, this sounds like it was recorded on some kind of pretty average mic. And true enough, it was. I recorded everything that I did with in this demo pass with this mic. And this is actually as one of my favorite mics. It's my Sennheiser E935. It's really good for stage performance. So this is usually my stage mic, really. If you've ever seen me perform with a handheld and not my usual headset, this is the mic I'm always using. And I also like it because it's blue. It's navy blue, which is one of my more favorite colors. But it's a dynamic mic. It's similar to the SM58. You'll hear that some of the pops still get picked up. So things like p, b, these vocalized sounds still get picked up, if I can find a spot with that.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying.
Yeah, so praying right there. If we zoom in,
Pray,
you can hear the aspirated sound there, the p sound. It's not as muted as we might usually think of if we were, say, to use some kind of condenser microphone with a pop filter. So it's very different. This is really just like recording weird demo vocal. But immediately when you put the LA2A on it, it's not going to take those pops away, but it is going to add a little bit more body to the sound. So here it is.
praying you don't wanna leave me.
Especially for the vowels. Listen out to how the vowels sound once you have the LA2A on it, which is, again, compressor. So I'll say this in a more generic sense, I think. Listen to what happens once you have a compressor on this voice.
Wanna leave,
So this is,
wanna leave me.
maybe I'll start with this phrase, praying you don't want to leave me.
Praying you don't wanna leave me.
Versus
Praying you don't wanna leave me.
those held vowels sound a little bit thinner versus having the compressor on it.
Praying you don't wanna.
It's a little bit more full. So, Jeff B says, I hear compression and saturation a lot. Yeah, totally. It's a very common kind of thing to hear. Right now, you don't hear it because, like I said, I don't have all of my compressors on at the moment. But yes, you will totally hear compression a lot and saturation a lot kind of used in tandem with each other. But yeah, that's the LA2A. That's kind of like the first thing I have in my processing rack.
Praying you don't wanna leave me.
And maybe this next part speaks a little bit to what Oliver Scott was asking about just now, but tuning. I think tuning is hugely important. So what I try to do pretty much for all vocals that I do, especially if it's very poppy and very EDM-y, is have some kind of tuning on it. And one tuner that I always recommend, because I found personally it reacts in a very natural sort of way to the voice, is Waves Tune. And I feel like it's very less used by people, but I love popping up Waves Tune. So over here I have Waves Tune. I have just a preset going over here that is correcting it to the scale that I'm in. So this is currently in B minor or D major, but more B minor-y since that's like the first chord. And I just have like a random preset on it set for medium correction. And again, I'm not doing anything to the preset other than changing the scale of it, which is B minor, like I said. But this is helping to, not to say that I was completely off with tuning just now, but it's helping to tighten things up a little bit as well. So with the tuning added, it's going to be really subtle, but you'll hear a little bit of a tighter tuning. And people often ask, on that note, people often ask me things like, oh, do you think vocals should be tuned all the time? Here's my possibly controversial answer. Absolutely. If you're not tuning your vocals for an EDM pop song, I think you'll probably be doing your production a disservice, and we can totally have an argument about that. So anyone who wants to fight me is more than welcome to. I'll just fight right back. But yeah, I think tuning, even with like some of the best vocalists that I've worked with, some of them are pitch perfect, but for a lot of EDM tracks, and at this point I feel like it's almost become a stylistic sort of thing, if you don't have that tuning, it might feel a little bit off. Or maybe you wouldn't have tuning if, say, it was a deep house track and maybe you're flowing a little bit more with a vocal that's in a more soul kind of style. But absolutely, if it's very poppy, if it's very electro pop, tuning almost always. And tuning to the specific key. So in this case, B minor. Or sometimes what I'll do, if I want less of that tuning effect, and if I know that the pitch is all right, I'll set it to chromatic. So chromatic scale has all of the notes in a specific... in all 12 notes really of a chromatic scale. So you'll get, all of the notes going up instead of snapping to a specific scale. So that might also be an option. You could either do chromatic or you could do to the key itself. So yes, we want the tuning. So now we sound like this. Praying you don't want to leave me. And it's very subtle, but you can hear it in, again, the more stretched out parts of the vocal. Versus. I don't know if you, maybe you can, might take a little bit of a while to get used to listening to this, but I think I've listened to a lot of things with tuning on and off of it, so I can tell like which one has tuning and which one does not have tuning on it. You'll probably be able to hear it more in, like I said, the stretched out sounds and how they tend to be a bit more in line, especially if you have two sounds that are, say, the same note, one after the other, and if they sound super tight, that's usually how you can tell if there's tuning. So let me see if there's an instance of that over here. The minutes wasted, the minutes, So even with the minute, the mi is the same note. So the mi, even when I just sang that to you directly through this mic, the mi, there's a little bit of pitch variation. The mi, and you can even hear that here with the before tuning also. The min, fluctuating a little bit. If we snap it though, the minutes waste gets a little bit tighter. So that's an example of tuning. Great. So we have the CLA2E. We have the tuning. The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't want to leave me. So cool. We have those. Now, for a lot of solo vocal stuff, especially if I have a lead vocal where I don't necessarily have a vocal double, I do like to add this next effect. And this next effect is called a chorus. So let's listen to it before and after. The minutes wasted, this is before. The hours lost, praying you don't want to leave me. The seconds baited, the curses tossed, saying you don't want to need me. Now, for some of you, maybe, for some folks, maybe it sounds obvious. Maybe for some of us, it doesn't. Let me know if you can hear the difference and if it sounds obvious to you, if you like it, if you don't like it. And we'll have a conversation after about why I personally put it on in this case. So here's before, here's after actually. I'll switch between the two. The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't want to leave me. The seconds baited, the curses tossed, saying you don't want to need me. Time would wait for anyone else. Night and day move on and we're left to grieve beyond the reasons we paid the cost. Here in the moment, defeated. So a couple of things to address. I love putting the chorus on things, and people, again, can disagree with me as much as they want to. But for my voice in particular, I don't necessarily have a very high voice. So at times when I use my chest voice, which is my belting voice, it can get kind of wompy around the, I use the term wompy, it can get kind of mid-rangey around like the 250, 500 sort of range. But using a chorus actually brings up a couple of the higher frequencies. So because of that, the lower frequencies are tamed a little bit. So it's kind of helping me on two fronts. It's making it seem as if there might be a vocal double. And then you're also kind of shaping, again, the timbre of the sound. So I also think of chorus as another timbral sort of effect and not just a usual kind of compression sort of effect too. So now we've got chorus on as well. The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't want to leave me. So that's with the chorus on. You can hear a little bit of graininess to it. Ooh, we had a couple of questions. Yeah. So let me also make sure I'm tuning in live. Cool. Jeff said, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But what are other wave tuning plugins, or it's just a changing? I'll answer the first part of your question because I'm not super sure what you mean by the second part of your question. But the first question, what are other wave tuning plugins? There are some wave tuning plugins that are available in post-production. So that's something that you'll be able to tune after the fact. So something a little bit more similar to, say, Melodyne. But for Waves Tune, this is Waves Tune real time. So I use it a lot for just real time putting on. You don't have to print things. I also use it for live performances, especially if I'm doing playback for other artists. I end up putting Waves Tune on their vocals for a lot of live performance kinds of things if I'm ever designing a setup for them. And that's kind of a little bit of what I do. So outside of teaching with 343 and outside of being an artist, I also am a live experience designer and a playback engineer too. So sometimes I design systems for other artists to use or help them design like vocal racks and stuff like that. Yeah, Nefertiti, cool, awesome, you heard it. So very slight, but yeah, it does make a difference. It's very subtle. I think if I hadn't pointed it out or if I hadn't used it at all, I probably wouldn't think about it, but it does help to add that extra bit of oomph to the vocal. Lisa, what did you adjust on the chorus, the modulation thingy? I feel like you just kind of answered your own question. I adjusted the modulation on the chorus, but it was really just to make the effect more obvious. So if you click on this particular modulation matrix over here, that's exactly what I was changing. It's changing the extent of the chorus. So what I was doing to make things a little bit more obvious, and I wouldn't do this on a real vocal, but I was doing this. The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't want to leave me. That adjusts the amount of modulation that you're having, as well as the rate. So how fast your chorus is going. Because the chorus is actually a time-based effect. It's playing with delays of an original signal. It's just that the result of that is we get a timbral change. So I'm not going to go super in-depth into that, because unless people want me to. If you do want me to do like a nerdy chorus thing, maybe we can do it for the next time I see everyone after we do creative vocal processing and vocal synthesis. So yeah. And yeah, thanks everyone who joined in recently. I saw that Thomas left the message for that just now, but welcome to this episode of 343 TV. Maybe I'll take a quick moment to explain it since we had a bunch of people bump up as well. But here we are at youtube.com/343labs. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can be updated for whenever we stream, and it's pretty much every day. We do this thing called 343 TV where we share lots of our instructors giving some tips or giving some how-to tutorials about how to work with things. So I'm Claire. I also go by dolltr, and I'm currently showing some vocal processing stuff. Yes, Lisa, you are welcome. That was exactly what it was. Cool. So what I was also adjusting a little bit of was this dry wet knob on chorus. And chorus is going to, this dry wet knob here, similar to any other dry wet knob that you see on any other device in live, is going to adjust the comparison, is going to adjust the proportion of the wet affected sound versus the dry non-affected sound. So let's play with the dry wet knob a bit.
Time won't wait for anyone.
So that's all of the chorus.
Night and day move on, and we're left to grieve beyond the reasons we paid the cost.
But we just want a little bit. And in my case, I actually, since adjusting that, I re-listened to this and I made it just a little bit more chorusy. So 33% instead of 30% as we initially had it. Cool. So there's the chorus. Let's close that up. Let's open up the EQ. Ooh, let's see what this is doing. So again, we'll do the comparison. I think that's probably the best way to show this. I'll play it with the device off, and then I'll play with the device on.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't want to leave me. The seconds baited, the curses tossed, saying you don't wanna need me. Time won't wait for anyone else. Night and day move on, and we're left left to grieve beyond the reasons we paid the cost. Here in the moment, defeated.
Cool. So it's funny, whenever I show people this EQ curve, sometimes people freak out and they're like, why does it look so crazy? It looks so crazy because, to be frank, I know my voice. I've been working with my voice personally for so long that I know that I have certain resonances in my voice that stick out a lot. If you've ever spoken to me in person, and if you happen to be an audio person also, you'll know that my 3K in my voice is really resonant. So I kind of pulled a lot of that out over here. And I also have something that's called a hypersibilant voice, which is very common amongst a lot of female vocalists, actually, because we tend to have a higher voice in general, and there's a lot of that going on. So when you have a hypersibilant voice, this is maybe the theater part of me talking. A hypersibilant voice is had by a person if your tongue in your pronunciation is very close against the back of your teeth. So because of that, anytime you pronounce a sibilant word like teaspoon, like t and sp, these noises are going to come through a lot. And for me, I do have that. So that's why I have all of these dips in the higher range also. And as far as this high pass filter over here goes, a lot of people are like, when they hear it at first, it's like, that's super, super aggressive. It sounds as if you've been filtered off. Yes, I very aggressively EQ my voice, because you'll find that later when you add on compression and reverb, that's also going to take up some space. So of course you don't want to go too overboard, but I found that for me, 300 is usually a sweet spot. Sometimes it's a little bit less, especially if I'm singing in the lower range, like if I go all the way lower down, then I want more of that. So then maybe I'll cut it off at 200 instead of 300. But yeah. Oh, Lisa, what is 3K? So 3K refers to the 3000 hertz range, or 3 kilohertz or 3K hertz range in your voice. So that's going to be something around, let's see if I can show it to you here.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't
That's that.
want to leave me. The seconds baited, the curses tossed, saying you don't.
So it's a little bit of that whistly honky-ish sort of range. That was a little bit lower than 3K actually. That was like 2.9K or so. But 3K is a range in your voice that is sometimes it's good for certain instruments. Like if you're playing cymbals or hi-hats, 3K is a really good range to have because it has a little bit of that element of the presence cutting through. But for a lot of frequencies that stack up, so for example in vocals, 3K is a range that can potentially be very painful if you have a very loud vocal that's very resonant. And as a little bit of a side kind of thing, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of a Fletcher Munson curve. Maybe this is probably the nerdiest that we'll get for today, everyone. I do apologize if you're not so much into the nerdy things, but let me see if I can pull up a Fletcher Munson curve for all of you. Let's find this. Ah, great, yes. This is an excellent picture. Let's open this image, and I'll show this to everyone. Great. So I'm just going to pull this onto my display so that you can see it over here. But this is a Fletcher Munson curve. It kind of displays the natural shape of human hearing. The way we interpret this is that around this particular range, we need less of a volume to be able to hear it at this lower frequency range. And that's why, maybe for a lot of, if anyone's like a mixing engineer as well, that's why anytime you kind of hear someone talk about bass being very hard to control, that's why. That's because it's because bass, lower frequencies tend to be harder to hear for us. So therefore, we often tend to try to overcompensate by bringing these volumes louder. Otherwise, for most parts, say like around 1K or so, pretty average hearing. The moment we get to 3K though, our ears pick that up a lot more easily. So we need less of that volume to be able to hear it at the same level. So that's how this graph is interpreted. If you need me to re-explain that, you can rewind in the video and watch me do that again. But yeah, that's why. So for example, even here, at a super high frequency, we're able to hear that more easily, so we need less of a volume. The reason why 3 to 5K is so interesting, though, is that if you ever think about it, when you hear a baby crying or a child crying or yelling for help, the reason why human ears pick it up so quickly is because that's in the 3 to 5K range. So it's almost a little bit like an evolutionary sort of thing too. We pick it up, and it's very much like psychoacoustical stuff. So I hope that answers the question about 3K and why. That was a long way to answer it, but 3K and why it's resonant. And this becomes problematic, especially when you have vocal stacks, which if you've heard my music before, you'll know I do a lot of. I stack up my vocals again and again and again. But the more you do that, the more 3K resonances you're kind of stacking up. So usually that's why I tend to dip a little bit more around 3K. So yes, thank you, Infographic, for being so helpful. Thank you to Wikipedia for giving us that image. And again, we're not sponsored by them, but if anyone knows of a sponsorship we should be getting, let us know. And yes, totally. Thanks, Thomas, for putting that in the chat. We do have upcoming courses, so please feel free to check out the 343 Labs website if you're interested in finding out more about this, or if you enjoy what I'm sharing right now. But in the meantime, we've got the aggressive EQ kind of here.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't want to leave me.
And this curve is like something that took me so long to figure out. And it was really a lot of just listening and being, okay, wait, the more stacks I do of this thing, the more resonant this particular frequency comes about. So that's actually how I discovered the 3K thing, I think. I was listening to my voice a lot, being stacked up and up and up again, and I was like, it's so resonant around 3K. And also around the other sibilant areas. So hypersibilant voice. Just be a little bit careful of that, especially if you're working with a vocalist who is hypersibilant too. But great, so now I have that. This next thing I have in the chain is a compressor from Live, and it's kind of doing the same thing that I did with the LA2A, except the LA2A, like I said, was really more for color. I personally find that the compressor in Live has less of that color, and it's more just doing the actual compression of, okay, let's take the softest part of this vocal, make it a little bit louder, and let's take the loudest part of this vocal and make it a little bit softer. So here is before the compressor, and let's actually start from this part, because the compression here is going to be a little bit more intense.
Night and day, need me, time would wait for anyone else.
Here's after.
Night and day, move on, and we're left to grieve beyond the reasons we paid the cost. Here in the moment, defeated.
So that's with the compression. And the compression really is a lot for giving you that kind of pop sound. And oftentimes when I'm doing pop vocal production, I have serial compressors. So that means one after the other. And that's actually what I have over here. The LA2A is one compressor in front, and then we got the compressor at the back. And, ooh, Paul, hello, greetings. So have you set that EQ8 up as a preset, or do you redo this for every one of your vocals? That's an excellent question, Paul. So like I mentioned, when you're working with different vocalists, this EQ curve, I'll pull it up again, this EQ curve will change. For me, this is a vocal rack that I've saved for myself to use whenever I'm recording demo vocals. Because whenever I cut demo vocals for any of my songs, I'm pretty much always cutting it in this position. This exact view that you see of me right now with this microphone speaking to you is the position in which I record my demo vocals. So this demo vocal was recorded with this mic. It was recorded with me sitting in this exact position with the AC running in a corner. This is exactly what I did. So I do have a preset for this. That said, I have a separate vocal rack that I have for recording back there. So even in a different part of my room, when I'm recording with that mic over there, which is a condenser, it's a Bluebird. I have a Bluebird. It's a different set altogether. Because even different microphones are going to make you have different sound qualities. So that's a great question, Paul. I would say creating a preset isn't necessary unless you do things a lot and you know that it's going to save you time. For example, it's funny, I was talking about this with a student of mine, so I think maybe I'll just speak about it here too. But I write every day, and I produce every day, and even if it's just for 5 minutes of my time, I feel like just even exercising the muscle, it's much better than not producing anything for like 5 weeks and then getting back to something and producing in a stretch of 4 hours. So even if you don't take anything away from my stream today, I do hope you'll keep that in mind. Consistency is, I think, one of the things that I espouse, rather than being super inconsistent and then just going for a stretch of like 5 hours of production. Even if it's 5 minutes in a day, I think it makes that difference. You're exercising that muscle and you're getting it into your head. So because of that, I record demo vocals pretty much for a lot of my songs on a daily basis at this point, especially in quarantine. I do something every day. So yes, that's why I do have it as a preset. So I hope that answers your question, Paul. And yeah, let's get back to our compression.
Need my time, would wait for anyone else. Night and day move on and we're left to grieve.
You might also notice that the moment I compressed this vocal, a lot of the natural resonance of the room came in. That's something that I'm not too concerned of with recording demo vocals. But it will be a concern later when I'm recording the actual vocals, which is when I want a dry sound. So that's when my mic setup at the back comes in. I have this like foam thing around. And you don't see this now, but I have these bunch of boxes that are layered a little bit with foam that are pretty much my height. I stacked up these bunch of boxes. So I can use that as like my recording space, really. It's kind of off to the side. But roller rate, creative device, even, totally. I do think 5 minutes a day makes a lot of difference. That's kind of how I started getting a lot better at the things that I wanted to work on. For example, I would do these melodics exercises pretty much every day. And melodics, for everyone who might not have heard of them before, they're a company that focuses a lot on pedagogy for finger drumming. And now I believe they also have a keys program. But when I started doing a lot of those finger exercises, I used melodics a lot. And I also simultaneously used my Alexander technique a lot, because I have to try to be a bit careful with my wrists now, because I used to have RPI, which is repetitive stress injury, RSI, sorry, which is from when you use a muscle too much and it ends up getting inflamed. So be a little bit careful with that. But yeah, a little bit every day totally makes a difference. Regine had a question. When you see stacking your vocals, do you mean using your voice to produce a 3-part background harmony? Yeah, Regine, totally. That's what I mean. And sometimes not even 3-part, but 4-part. If I add in a tension. So we could even do that over here. Let's say I had this. So
minutes wasted, the hours lost.
Because like I said, I'm just here with my vocals, right? So let's make a duplicate of this track. And I'm going to take away this over here, but I am going to set up the input of this mic so that it's taking in my voice. So now there's 2 of me. That's why you hear this weird delayed kind of effect. But what if I wanted to record some vocals? Let's do that. Let's turn the monitoring off. Cool. So now I'm just recording in my vocal track over here. And I'm going to call this stack 1. So it could be something as easy as doing a repeated version of myself, like a vocal double. So
the minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't want.
It could be as easy as doing a stack of that, or it could be layering like a harmony, right? So praying
lost, praying you don't want to leave me.
Something like that. So it could be recording that on top as well, or layering that in. So if I did that,
lost, praying you don't want to leave me.
That's the first layer. Let's do the second layer. Pray, praying you don't want.
Lost, praying you don't want to leave me.
There we go. There's our 3-part harmony. Cool. So I know that was. Let me bring my monitoring back. I know that was kind of like a weird segue, but totally. So now that would give me even more reason to kind of control these a little bit, right? Because these are the vocal stacks that are supposed to be a little bit quieter, and they should be less resonant too. So I would then go in and create some other kind of EQ. So that's what this is doing behind here. We'll go into that a little later. But let's just keep these in view for now. Now I have those stacks that I can play around with. Let's close these up. And let's head back to the original vocal. So now I was here with my compressor.
The curse is tossed, saying you don't want to need me. Time would wait for anyone else.
Now, next in the chain, I have Sibilant, which is a Waves plugin. And you might be able to guess what it does from the description of it. So if I opened up this device, let's see what is happening when I turn this on. And let's take a look at what Sibilant is doing to the vocal.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't want to leave me. The seconds baited, the curse is tossed, saying you don't wanna need me. Time would wait for anyone else. Night and day move on, and we're left to grieve beyond the reasons we paid the cost. Here in the moment, defeated.
Cool. So Sibilant is this particular instrument. Again, it's Sibilant Live. So it's part of, it's another Waves plugin that does real-time Sibilant correction. It's a de-esser, basically. So a de-esser is a type of device that if you were to break it down really, it's a type of compressor that only compresses specific frequencies. So it only compresses, in this case, the very high sounds, like and in my voice, like I said, hyper-sibilant. So you can see anytime one of those green notches pops up, that is that frequency range being compressed. And take a listen to the vocals. That's going to be exactly what this is doing. So take a look at this.
The minutes waste.
So minutes, that's exactly what that was over here.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't wanna leave me. The seconds baited, the curse is tossed, saying you don't wanna need me. Time would wait for anyone else. Night and day move on, and we're left to grieve beyond the reasons we paid the cost. Here in the moment, defeated.
Cool. And at that point, that's kind of the chain, really. I've got the reason why I've got the de-esser after the compressor, Sibilant after the compressor, is that I find I've experimented with this chain a bunch of times, and so I've tried putting like Sibilants before compressor and before EQ and stuff. But I find that after you compress the sound with Live's compressor, some of the higher frequencies are a little bit more emphasized. So I found that putting Sibilants after that was more effective in taming some of those higher frequencies. And after that, we kind of get to these spatial sorts of effects like delay and reverb. And there's a reason I also put these directly on for now. It's mainly because I was doing this demo actually. And usually I would have these on a send or a return. And if you notice over here in my live project, I do have my default template having some reverb and delay. So that's a part of my workflow as well. Let's head back to this though. Let's see what this delay is doing.
Time would wait for anyone else. Night and day move on, and we're left to grieve beyond the...
Okay, so you might have been able to hear that already, but as I was playing back this delay, it was synced to the tempo. So just for reference, I'm going to turn the metronome back on and see if you can listen out for when the delay is coming in and maybe how it's coming into, which is the next part of this.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't wanna leave me. The seconds baited, the curse is tossed, saying you don't wanna need me. Time would wait for anyone else. Night and day move on, and we're left to grieve beyond the reasons we paid the cost. Here in the moment, defeated.
Now, full disclosure, again, I'm making the delay more than I would usually have it, just to emphasize things. But a couple of things. Yes, the delay is coming in after each beat. So it's delayed by a quarter note. And I personally liked synced delays a lot for a lot of electronic poppy sort of music, because I think it adds a little bit to the rhythm and the flow of things. You could, if you wanted to, unsync this. So instead of having the delay synced to the tempo, you could randomly put in some value of time.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost.
And to be honest, I sometimes do this to change between the verse and the chorus, because that's a pretty cool thing to kind of time things up. So for example, sometimes in the verse, I'll use unsynced delays in my song. And then for the chorus or the build up, everything is synced. So you kind of get like a different vibe for that, and you build up there. So changing delays. I'm not sure if anyone else does that. I'm sure people do, but maybe it's a different paradigm of sorts. But oh, we had a question from FRT. Thank you so much. I'm happy that you think the harmonies are okay. Is it like a de-esser? Yes. So Sibilant is a de-esser. It's just a name for a type of de-esser that Waves has, and it's good for responding to things in real time. So that's why I like using that a lot. Yeah. So going back to the delay. Maybe it's something that is less obvious but is important still is the quality of the delay, which is what I mentioned just now. So I'm going to turn off this thing that says filter. What is this thing doing?
The minutes wasted, the hours lost.
And let's turn it on.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost.
Cool. So not all delays will have a filter built into them, but I love that Live's delay does. And I oftentimes use it more than I don't, partially because if you listen to the unfiltered delay sound,
the minutes wasted, the hours lost.
It's doing exactly what a delay is meant to do, which is repeat a sound. So you're getting this wholesale repeated sound, but that's something that you might not want. What if you want to create more space? Like maybe you have some other kinds of synths that need to be taking the forefront, but you still want to have that delayed sort of effect. So that's why I find filters really useful. I find that being able to have them in a delay is really useful. Otherwise, what I'll do is I'll have a delay, then I'll have an EQ after that delay to shape it a little bit more. And that way, you can also decide if you want some kind of higher delay or a lower delay. So let's see what happens if I play this entire track. We'll listen, the vocal section, and then we'll listen to me as I shift the delay around.
The minutes wasted, the hours lost. Praying you don't wanna leave me. The seconds baited, the curse is tossed. Saying you don't wanna need me.
So it really, really depends on what you might prefer. But generally, I like to filter out a bit of the top end and the lower end so that it sounds a little bit telephonic-y, but mainly so that the gist of the character of the vocal is retained, but you're cleaning things up a little bit so things aren't becoming too wampy. my favorite word, wampy. That's the word of the day. Oh, Oliver, how do you address plosive puffs after the fact? There's a couple of ways that you can do them. Generally, I would not address them after the fact. I would make sure that I'm addressing them before the fact, because once they are in, I find them personally hard to take out. In this case, it's a demo vocal, like I said. So because of that, I was just recording it in this position. But if I were properly recording this with this same mic, again, I probably wouldn't. I would use a different mic. If I were recording it with this same mic, I would make sure to have the mic a couple of inches away from me to prevent proximity effect. And I would also have a pop filter. Even though this kind of functions similarly to a pop filter, sometimes if you have a very dynamic voice, like I do, I have a pretty dynamic voice. If you have a very dynamic voice, you may still get those pops. So you want to make sure that you have a pop filter. So address it before rather than after. Prevention is better than cure. This has been your local PSA from someone who's not a doctor, but please trust your doctors and wear masks. Okay, that was a diversion. But yeah, after the fact, I would say if you have to deal with it after the fact, I would recommend iZotope's RX suite, which is an amazing suite for editing and cleaning up different kinds of audio. It works really well for removing plosives. There's a specific module that's called deplosive that works great. So if I had to work with this vocal and if it somehow ended up being my final vocal for my song, I would probably throw deplosive on it and take those plosives out. So I hope that answers your question, Oliver. I'm a little bit more, I feel like I'm a little bit more inclined to accept things that are hyper sibilant rather than plosive-y. So that because I find that sibilance is a little bit easier to deal with. But plosives you're almost kind of distorting the waveform when you have a plosive. Versus sibilance, it's kind of just a little bit of the EQ itself. Alex, how often do you do your demo vocals end up in the final mix? That's an excellent question. Pretty much never. Like I think at this point I'm a little bit of like a perfectionist, I think. So but actually that's it. I'm so glad that you asked that, Alex. There's a tune that I actually have released out there where my demo vocals are the final vocals. I stand corrected. There's two. Now that I think about it, maybe one of them I'll play right after this so that you can hear what it is. But one of them was called Paper Thin. So if you look up dolltr Paper Thin, that was the demo vocal that ended up in the final track. And to be frank, the only reason it ended up in, not the only reason, but the main reason why I so wanted it to be in the final track. I'll play it after this entire stream is over. The reason why I wanted it to be kind of in the final track was because there were some moments in my voice where I think my voice cracked in the vocals, but it added a lot to the emotion that I was feeling at the time, so I just kept it in. So I'm curious, actually, Alex, how about you? How often do your demo vocals end up in the final mix? I love to hear about that. But I know that we're running out of time, everyone, so just wanted to add in the last thing in the chain, which is reverb. And this is really very much to taste. For me, I just wanted to add a little bit more space to this. And at the same time, after the reverb, adding a little bit of EQ to, again, take out that 3K over there in case it became too overwhelming, and also just cut out a little bit more of that bottom. So altogether, the chain here is before the minute, and with the, let's do it with the chords. The minutes wasted, the hours lost, praying you don't wanna leave me. The seconds baited, the curses tossed, saying you don't wanna need me. Time would wait for anyone else. Night and day move on, and we're left to grieve beyond the reasons we paid the cost. Here in the moment, defeated. Echoes after. Cool. Oh, Alex, oh no, unfortunately too much. Yeah, I feel like I do understand what you mean by feeling attached, though. I think I feel the same way too. Sometimes I just like force myself to do it, especially if there's been like background noise or if like there's a weird fuzzy thing going on. Sometimes there's that too. But that's it. It is the end of our hour. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I do believe we had a couple of new viewers today. So thank you for joining in. And thank you also to Thomas for running everything in the chat. Really appreciate it. It is about time for us to wrap up. So again, if you do want to tune into our other streams, everyone, go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube and go ahead and check out 343labs.com for more information about the things that we do. On the note of classes, kind of going back to Alex, just because I thought about Alex too. Alex is currently in Berlin, and 343 Labs, we just opened a Berlin location. So if you are in Europe, you can take classes from us there too. You don't just have to take classes from us in our New York location. But thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's been really fun. Here is the example of a song where I have my demo vocals in, and it's a different vocal chain, actually. So maybe you can see if you can hear the difference. But thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you all soon. Bye.
You left your mark, now it's plain to see. Oh, oh. My paper heart towards you recklessly. Oh, oh. Your name inked across my pages of white. Tell me what you want from me. I'm paralyzed, buried underneath. Oh, oh. Say you'll come on home, 'cause I want you, baby, I need you the most. Can you hear me? Won't you say you'll come on home? 'Cause I want you, baby, I need you the most. And I'm begging, won't you say you'll come on home? 'Cause I want you, baby, I need you the most. Can you hear me? Won't you say you'll come on home? 'Cause I want you, baby, I need you the most. We're wearing paper thin. Thousand times that I tried to leave. Oh, oh. One slip and I'll fall over again. Tell me what you want me. I can't go on in your fantasy. Oh, oh. Don't break all that's left in me. I'm wearing paper. Don't leave me a memory. Don't take all the world in me. Don't break all that's left in me. Left your mark, now it's plain to see. Oh, oh. My paper heart towards you recklessly. Oh, oh. Your name inked across my pages of white. Tell me what you want from me. I'm paralyzed, buried underneath